Welcome back, everyone. And so we're getting into Bacon's Rebellion today. So this is going to be a part of an additional series of videos that goes beyond the very quick overview that I've done for my American Yop review videos for my classes. Now this one is Bacon's Rebellion. So this 1676 revolt in Virginia is going to have far-reaching consequences. It's going to shape the future of labor, governance, race relations in colonial America, and just in general show that not all is well 50 years after the foundation of Jamestown. And in my mind, it's going to be a precursor to the American Revolution, which says 1676, 1776, which is about 100 years in the future. So let's explore the causes, the key players, and some of the lasting impacts of Bacon's Rebellion. Now, by the 1670s, Virginia is a booming colony. It's driven largely by tobacco production, but life wasn't easy for everybody. Wealthy planters control vast amounts of land, while poor settlers, many of which were freed indentured servants, some were frontiersmen, they're struggling to make a living. And if you're not familiar with what an indentured servant is, go check that out. But these indentured servants had served their term, and now they're looking for land of their own, and the only land available is going to be farther west. And of course, we're pushing the Native Americans farther west as settlement continues in the direction of the Appalachians and the Allegheny Mountains. Now, economic disparity is growing. Tension is growing as well between settlers and Native Americans over land use. All of this will play a role. Now, at the same time, Virginia's Governor, Sir William Berkeley, is going to be criticized for his policies. And in many cases, he's favoring the wealthy. He's favoring the wealthy elite. And he maintained a lucrative trade relationship with Native American tribes. He got along well with them. He traded tobacco to them and got other things from the Native Americans, particularly furs and trapped products. But he refused to support settlers in their conflicts with Native Americans, particularly those living on the frontier. It's going to cut into his bottom line. It's going to cut into his profits in the deals that he's made. So this decision would play a central role in sparking what would be known as Bacon's Rebellion. Now, Nathaniel Bacon is a wealthy but ambitious newcomer to Virginia. He quickly became a leader among these disgruntled settlers. And in fact, if memory serves, he's actually a cousin of William Berkeley. He and his followers, many of whom were poor farmers, former indentured servants, were angry about Governor Berkeley's refusal to protect them from Native American raids on the frontier. They believed that the colonial government cared more about protecting trade with Native Americans than about the safety and welfare of their own settlers, these subjects or these citizens of the Virginia colony. So in 1676, Bacon took matters into his own hands, and without Berkeley's approval, he raised a militia and he began to attack Native American tribes, both hostile and friendly. Really didn't matter. Who attacked me? We don't know, so we're going after all of you. And his actions were initially pretty popular among the frontier settlers, but it's going to infuriate the governor, and he declares Bacon to be a rebel. And what do you do with rebels? You go after them. You end the threat. You end the rebellion. And so as tensions would escalate, Bacon's Rebellion is going to take on a new dimension. And no longer was this just about conflicts with Native Americans. This becomes a direct challenge to Governor Berkeley's authority. Bacon and his followers would march on Jamestown, this was the colonial capital at the time, and demand reforms. Includes a more aggressive policy against Native Americans, changes to the political system. These are things they saw as corrupt and controlled by the elite, and they wanted it changed. So in September of 1676, Bacon and his forces are going to burn Jamestown to the ground. It's a direct act of defiance against Berkeley and his administration, and the colony will be plunged into chaos. Armed skirmishes are going to break out between Bacon's forces and the governor's supporters. Now, Bacon's Rebellion is going to come to an abrupt end later that year. Nathaniel Bacon will die suddenly of dysentery. He drank the water. His body wasn't used to it, and he got very, very sick and died. Now, without their charismatic leader, Bacon's forces are going to quickly disband. Governor Berkeley is going to regain control of the colony and with the help of British troops, and he'll harshly punish the remaining rebels, many of which will be executed. Of course, we'll see something very similar to this at the Battle of Alamance in 1771 in North Carolina. Now, although the rebellion was crushed, the impact is going to be far-reaching. It exposed the deep divisions within Virginia society between the wealthy planters and the poor settlers, And it highlights the settlers' frustration with the colonial government as well. How do they handle land issues? How do they handle Native American issues? And so all of this sort of plays in here. Now, one of the most significant consequences, though, of Bacon's rebellion will be the influence on the future of labor in Virginia. Before the rebellion, much of the colony's labor force consisted of indentured servants. These were poor Europeans who had worked for a set number of years in exchange for passage to the New World. I can't afford the boat ride, so I will work off my boat ride by working for you for 4 to 7 or 12 years, however long your indenture contract was for. However, after the rebellion, the colonial elite are going to become more wary of relying on poor European workers. They were afraid they may revolt again. And remember that most of these folks that were revolting had been indentured servants. There's an end to their term of service. And now, where are they going to go? Well, they're going to continue to go west. That's going to cause more trouble with the natives. It's going to cause more conflict that the colonial government's going to have to deal with, or in the case of Berkeley, not deal with. So in the years following, Virginia planters are going to begin to shift increasingly toward African slave labor. And they saw this as more controllable. They also saw it eventually as more permanent. The transition would have profound effects on the development of racial slavery in the American colonies. It's going to set the stage for a deeply entrenched system of racial inequality as well that would go along with those early days of slavery in our country's history. Now, let's kind of conclude this story by saying this. Bacon's rebellion is a turning point in early American history. It ultimately fails. But it does expose the growing tensions between the elite and the poor. It's kind of a rich and a poor dynamic, and between settlers and Native Americans, and within the colonial government itself. The rebellion is also going to mark a shift in labor practices. It's going to set the stage for racial slavery and the dominant labor system in the American South. And so, while slavery is dominant in the South, it will at this point in history be throughout the colonies. But over time, we're going to see it begin to coalesce exclusively in the South as we start to move beyond the Revolution, the early part of the 19th century. So, thank you for joining me in one of these very brief deep dives. If you like, subscribe, stay tuned. I'll try to do more of these as we go along. Nothing fancy, no fancy graphics, just me talking to you. So hopefully this has been helpful, and I will see you down the road, and good luck on any tests you got.